say something controversial,
Uh,
and sorry to my sisters in advance. A man makes more money, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to go provide for my family." A woman makes more money, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't need no man."
exactly.
This is the Publisher's Desk with Damon K. Jones, brought to you by Black Westchester Magazine.
Peace and blessings, everybody. This is Damon K. Jones here, and welcome to another show of the Publisher's Desk. This week, we're having a real conversation about something most people avoid: family structure and power. I'm sitting down with Andre Harrison from Harrison Family Values on YouTube. He's the host. And we're going to break down why the collapse of the family isn't just personal, it's political, it's economic, and it's generational. We're talking masculinity, marriage, faith, and the truth about what's really holding our communities back. Now, if you're serious about solutions, not just opinions, you don't want to miss this episode right here. And I want to welcome my brother, my family, Andre Harrison. Welcome, brother. Welcome to the show, man.
What's going on, cuz? Glad to be here. Glad to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this conversation.
No, man. Thank you for coming. As I said, before I started the show, I thought about you and I was watching a lot of things going on, and I was meaning to connect with you anyway, but it's just so much going on and so much is happening, in just in the world, even if I'm taking it from a biblical sense, we see what's going on, but we also, try to keep our family intact, brother. And I think that's really serious. I wanted to bring you on because you make a lot of great points on your shows and on your commentary. And I wanted to ask you, I wanted to start off, right?
Yes, sir.
Your show is the Harrison Family Values.
Yeah.
When people talk about family values, right? It's a moral conversation, but is the collapse of the family really a moral issue, or is it rooted in economic and politics? What do you think about that, brother?
Well, that's a good question. That's actually deep, and I would say it's definitely a little bit of both, and only because with modern times, people are looking to re-identify and provide new definitions to so many different things. So things that were traditionally one way has sort of changed today, which we're trying to change definitions. And I'm not going into necessarily like, all the hot topics that people want to, talk about, because they tend to weaponize it. And truth be told, people don't want to have an honest conversation about things like this without getting in their feelings and not being objective. And I think people struggle with being objective when they're having conversations. And I say this with all due respect, and I'm not trying to be mean, but people can get really stupid when it comes to what they feel, instead of stopping and saying, what you feel is to you. We're trying to discuss what's the benefit to the masses and the broader, part of society. You can be happy about one specific thing, but we have to understand that one specific thing makes you happy, and it might not be a benefit to everybody. So I think when we have conversations like this, people tend to get stupid. And I'm not saying it like to be derogatory.
No, I understand
the definition of it, So when we having conversations, I think we should be just willing to learn, be willing to disagree, and maintain a level of respect for one another. And when it comes to the family, so I say that to say this: when it comes to the family, it's both. It could be both a moral and, in addition to political. And to be perfectly honest with you, if I'm, if and again, people could say that, well, you're a black man, so of course you're going to think this way. But the proof is in the pudding. When we look at the current state of black families today, in comparison to how it was back in the 60s, 50s, 40s, in the most detrimental time for blacks in America, where just walking in this wrong town past a certain hour, and it's still like that today in many places in this country, but definitely, you know, in more places than it was then. Just walking in the wrong town past a certain time will get you lynched.
Absolutely.
Right? So we have to be honest about that conversation. So what has happened? And again, some people are okay with how family is today. And again, it's because they're in their fields. And when we look at what's of benefit as a whole, we got to have the hard conversations and be willing to put blame where it is, because there's no way problems will get fixed if we don't point out the problem. If we ignore that the problem exists, it'll never get fixed, ever.
Exactly. You know, I really think, you know, like you said, we need these honest conversations, but we're not having them. And, you know, I was talking to a brother that's coming on another show, and, you know, we was discussing how the last Kamala Harris, the last election, you know, after he said the day after the loss, you know, he said he just felt attacked, you know, because they created that narrative that it was the black man's fault.
100%.
You know, and he was like, brother, he was like, the day after, he was at an event, he was hosting an event the election night, and he didn't even comment when the reporters was there and they asked him about, you know, Trump winning. He didn't comment, right?
Yeah.
But he said, brother, the next day when he woke up and he started scrolling and he just said, brother, I felt like I want to just throw up because, you know, they made it our fault, you know, and I understand, man. It felt like, you know, that to me, that was one of the lowest periods of being a black man in America, when we was blamed for a loss that we really had nothing to do with, right? You know, 80% of black men still rocked out.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
She still got more votes than Biden.
Yeah,
in his election.
Yep.
You know, and it was our fault, man. What do you like, brother? You speak on that, man. Like, should we be feeling like that? You know, and it's like we couldn't even push back.
Yeah, no, and if we did, we become even more villainous, right? We become deeper in that villainous hole. Again, as I said before, people get stupid and in their feelings on certain things, right?
Right.
Despite over 80% of black men voting for Kamala Harris, it was the black man's fault why she didn't get elected. And it really reminds me of when Biden got elected and he went on the Breakfast Club and he told Charlemagne, you know, if you're not black if you don't vote for me, right? Like, we just get, like, first off, after saying that, he should not have gotten anybody's vote.
That's a whole nother exactly.
If I'm honest, if we're using the same metric as we would everywhere else, right? Because, and again, I'm apolitical. I'm neither Democrat or Republican. Okay, I vote on the issues and how it would benefit me and how it would benefit the broader society.
Exactly.
I'm neither Democrat or Republican. They equally get the smoke. But but you know, Trump can say terrible things and we'll hold him accountable.
Exactly.
But we won't hold our own accountable. So I say that to say this, specifically with Kamala Harris, right? She didn't run and in her running state anything substantial, if anything at all, that would benefit the black family, you know, the black man. It was like, you know, by default, because she's a black woman, she should automatically get the vote of black men. And we got to stop thinking that, because then, like, where's the accountability? So because we're black, we live without accountability, and our skin color is the only thing that really binds us together. Not if they are going to represent us the way we need to be represented.
Exactly.
So I again, it wasn't the black man's fault, because the evidence is there. Over 80% of black men voted, and as you mentioned before, even more than Biden, and he won. So so that wasn't the case. The truth of the matter is, America was pretty tired, right? There was fatigue there.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, one of the things that Trump did was, at some level, discuss family.
Yes.
And
whether we like it or not. Whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Whether we like it or not. So
exactly.
Like, there is something that's still there that centers around the charm of home, right?
Right.
And the numbers don't lie, right? So when it comes to the black family, if we're not discussing ways to improve the black family, right, then and we're just leaving it to whatever, it's never going to improve. So when we have somebody like Kamala Harris, who ran on what she ran on, and doesn't directly impact how the black family would get better, because by default, here's the thing that we have to remember, right? Because the black family is sort of like the low-hanging fruit, right? Improving that will improve everybody else.
Listen, I say that all the time, even to the racists.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Even to the racists.
Yes. And we're not saying, like, give black people special treatment. We're saying, if like everybody understand this trope, you're only as strong as your weakest link. Right. In regards to strong families build strong communities. Strong marriages build strong families. Strong families build strong communities, right? And when in America, in the West, or no matter where in the world, but specifically in the Western culture, whenever you see strong communities, you see strong marriages.
Exactly.
Not perfect. It may not be perfect, right?
Right. We ain't talking perfect. Right.
No, but it's strong, intact. There's a level of loyalty there, right? And when we look at communities that aren't doing that well, right? There's an influx of single parent homes, specifically single mother homes, and single father homes as well. Marriage isn't a thing. You have 80% of the women making babies with 20% of the men. It's a problem,
brother. They don't, bro. They don't see that.
Yeah.
In the discussions, they do not. And I'm like, okay, well, you can't say all men are bad.
Yeah.
Right. True. It's just the men that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Is bad, and you're dealing with that same type of man. You're just going in a circle, and I had a conversation with a young lady, and I said, hey, here's a young man, here's a guy for you, single. He's retired. Not only is he retired, he owns a home, and he has a full-time job. He's retired.
He has pension,
pension, right? Pension and a paycheck, right?
Yeah.
He's not my type. I said, what? I said, well, what is your type?
We got to go there too.
Only thing you got to do is fall in love and move in.
Yeah.
And move in.
Yeah.
And it's not like he was ugly. You know what I'm saying? Oh, well, he's just, he wears suits a lot. I said, what?
What is it with
what can you do with this, man? Like, how do you even come back as a man? Like, huh? Like,
it's crazy. Like, stability is wrong in their eyes. Like, just having some kind of stability, right? It's crazy. It's
Exactly.
crazy. Again,
Exactly. And then they can't find a man. But a lot of times your type, you're not the type for your type.
Nope.
Right? You're not the type for your type. And
also the problem is this, like your type is also the type of a whole bunch of other women who have the same guy.
Exactly.
And then if we go to with that type, let's just hang out there for a little bit. And I don't want to like completely hop on our sisters because men have some things
but we're still having a conversation that's real. And maybe 100%. If they're watching, we just dropping some men knowledge.
Yeah. So we have our sisters out there, right? And what they've seen, the source of reference that they have, is really what the media has pushed out to them.
Exactly.
So we have people like a great entertainer. I'm a great entertainer, right? Chris Brown, who is going to be perpetually single for the rest of his life because he's having too much fun. He has too much access, right?
Right.
That is the type of man that these women want, right? Without realizing that type of man is not going to be who is going to be the one to give you the stability that you need, the security you need. It's just not going to happen, right? Crying out loud, Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Everybody knows his rotation and his pattern in women.
Exactly.
He's still desired. He's still the type that all these women. The source of reference is skewed. It's really messed up that we can see a guy who has devoted himself to discipline, to work a job to the point where he's retired.
Right.
And to show that he's no bum, get another job because he could be chilling for the rest of his life.
Exactly.
Right? As you mentioned, he's not an ugly guy. And because he's concerned about his image, he wears suits. He's not your type. Like, so it's skewed. It really is skewed.
It's a part of this comes from a lot of sisters, and we're not harping on the sisters, but it has to. They never seen a man like that in their life. See, if you look like if we're at 80% of children being born out of wedlock, now we're up at close to 80.
Yeah.
So if you go back the last 20 years or the last 30 years, a lot of young women never seen a man in their house, never seen a man loving on their mother, right? And being loyal and faithful to their mother, right? And bringing structure.
Yeah.
And the same way with the young boys too. Let's not get it twisted on that. We're going to get into that too.
100%.
Right? But they haven't seen that.
Yeah.
So how do they look at, and I told my son with his daughter, I said, bruh, you have to be the example of the man that she wants to marry.
Yeah. Yep.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's your job moving forward is show her the type of man that she wants to find and marry.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? I said, that's your job. That's your job. That's part of your job, man. And I don't think a lot of young girls have been exposed to that.
Yeah.
And even now it's even worse.
Yeah, it is. Because the truth is we have in our communities men who are out there lacking penis discipline.
Right.
And spreading their resources way thinner than they should, to the point where they might have 4, 5, 6 kids with 3, 4, 5 different women, and it's very difficult for them to manage that, to show up at those times, games, balls,
right.
316.
Right.
So and it's different when you have a man in the house to consistently model for boys what it means to be a man, and to young ladies what it means to have a solid man in your life. And my story, father passed away a couple of years ago. My father, and he wasn't there. I didn't have that source of reference. And thankfully, my mom had some
Right.
great men, my uncle and others in my life for me to
Right.
look at, but they weren't married. They weren't married.
Right.
So I didn't have that consistent source of reference. And
Right.
truth be told, it wasn't until I started going to church when I started to look at
Exactly.
men and their
Right.
and how they husbands and how they operated with their kids and wives. And I was like,
Right.
you know what? That's what it looks like. I don't know
Right.
what happens
Right.
behind closed doors because again, no marriage is perfect. But I said to
Right.
myself, that's what it looks like. That's what balance looks like.
Right.
And
Right.
now I have a source of reference. Now I can visualize how I could operate within a marriage to actually see a family come out of this and a solid family at that.
Right.
And
Right.
and today that's not celebrated. Like we celebrate more baby showers than we do weddings today.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
in the black community. And by no means am I saying like, do not support,
Right.
ladies and babies who are even born out of wedlock. Like I'm not from that school where I think,
Right.
mothers need to suffer because, they might have
Exactly.
made a choice. But the fact is, we are celebrating baby showers more than anything else. We go into social media and we see all these
Exactly.
gender reveals and
Exactly.
before there's a wedding and the family is
Yeah.
an afterthought. Like,
Right.
well,
Right.
solidifying the family as an afterthought. Um,
Exactly.
so it's a thing. So when it comes to men, one of the things that we got to start doing is being disciplined with our body parts and not
Yes.
spreading our
Yes.
resources so thin. And then,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, and then get upset when uh the ladies take us to court for child support, and now we have to pay 5 different women child support.
Exactly.
Like,
And we
listen,
got no money.
yeah, you can't live, your kids can't live. You just spread it all your resources out. Like that's not smart. It's not.
No.
At all.
It's not at all, and it's dangerous, man. Because
Yeah,
if you look at the disease rates, and
yeah,
like I saw one with Houston, I was like, oh
yeah.
my god,
No,
like what? I was like, what is going on down
yeah.
there, right?
I'm
Right?
not. If I go to haircut, Houston, I'm not getting a haircut. I'm bringing my
Nah,
own plastic utensils. I'm the,
exactly, because we were looking at, Houston was one of the places, me and Montika's like, yo, next 5 years, we
yeah,
see what, and we think about bouncing. And
yeah,
I'm looking at the real estate in Houston is beautiful, right?
yeah,
Just the numbers. But
yeah.
then I saw the infections rate. I was like, well, where do you go? Like
Yeah. How big is Houston? Right?
exactly.
Yeah,
But it's like it's almost with everything that's going on.
Mhm.
It's like we don't see as a people, the urgency of our togetherness and our family structure.
so
You know,
yeah,
and it's like we continue to be we continue to be distracted.
yeah,
You know, I'm going to get on the men because I don't want any women to
yeah,
think that we're going hard, right?
yeah, yeah,
So we were talking about, we just said it, Black men today that didn't grow up with structure.
mhm,
So when we talk about masculinity, are we asking them to lead when they're not taught how? We just dropped in something like that. We covered that, but I see in today's young Black men, that they're not really taught how to lead because of
yeah,
the absence of the man,
yeah.
right? And and they don't understand, and they're not understanding how to respect authority,
That too.
you know?
That too. I'm in education, and that's a
Yeah, well, you
thing.
see it, brother, you see it.
Yeah,
You see
that's
it every day.
yeah, every day. And if I'm honest, it's they grow up not respecting female authority even more so. You
Really?
know how many times? Yeah, you know how many times I would walk into a room and it'll go like it could be absolute chaos. I'll go into a classroom. Everybody stops, sit down. You can hear a pin drop just by me walking in.
Wow.
You know, and I'm not that, you know, crazy. I was not a mean teacher. It's just the presence.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, the presence of a man who is confident, strong in stature, and you know, there's a security, there's a safety thing there, right?
Right.
And you're right. Like they, you know, men grow up and they don't respect authority. You know, they don't have that source of reference of what a man is. And if there is a source of reference, they seeing who they see out in the street. And generationally, they had no one there full time.
Exactly.
You know, and as we go back, like there was a time where, and I'm only going. I wasn't there just by history, right?
Right.
The father's presence in the home was felt.
Yes.
Right. It was felt. And our families are all the more better for it. And we can go into you know, the nuances of the conversation, the government and how they played a part in it and all that stuff, and the welfare system and the state and how it affected us and incentivized our families to be broken. We can go into that, right?
Right.
But I think we're at a time now where we have to we can remember that. But today is a very different day. And men are choosing to have babies with women that just look good.
Exactly.
And lack character. Now, this isn't the woman's fault.
Right.
We're choosing to lay with women that we just think look good, and we determine that to be a life partner. And even if we don't determine it to be a life partner, we'll allow 5, 10, 15 minutes of pleasure to change the trajectory of our life. We didn't have discipline. We see a beautiful woman. Oh, yo, she's beautiful. Right. But I know what can happen 18 years of my life if I make this decision right now.
Exactly.
We lack that discipline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And when you try to tell these, you know, I get it, man, because I've known cats that known me when I was 21, 22, and they would say, you know, that I worked with, and they say, hey, brother, you know, and one of the guys I talked to just last week, and he brought up a conversation that we had when I was 22 years old. And he said, you see that I'm right now, right? And I was like, yo, bro, you're absolutely correct. Because like, we don't see that. As a young man, I thought at 21, 55 was so far.
Yeah.
Right. Even 40 was. I was like, man, y'all old heads, right? You know, I'm at the job, y'all old heads. You know, I'm in shape, the 6-pack, right, walking around, and you know, with the muscles out, right? I'm like, yo, y'all old heads, and they like. And then years later, he said, "Remember that conversation we had?" I said, "Yo, you remember that?" He was like, "Yeah, you see, I was right, right? You see, I was right." 100%. So, like, we need to. Young black men, we need more mentors. We need to figure that out.
Yeah.
We need to reach out, because a lot of these young sisters need help with their children.
Yeah.
You know, need help with their sons. You know, and even, you know, I talked to my Montika. You know, she's in a youth bureau, and some of them wild out from their mother and father being home.
Yeah.
You know, like she deal with the youth program, and she's like, yeah, there's some that come mother and father in the house, and they got some of the worst kids in the street. You know, so like, but I think we just have to. I think it's a lack of faith.
Yeah.
Right. It's a lack. It's a and I'm not saying, you know, everybody needs to be in church, but everybody needs to have that guidance.
Yeah.
You know, and that's lacking. That's really lacking. And the spiritual leaders need to be on point, because I'm going to let you respond. One thing my mother said, and she was a church-going woman, paid her tithes, was up everything, had her one little seat that nobody sat in every Sunday, right? She was one of them.
Yeah.
And we was having a conversation about Mount Vernon.
Hmm.
And she said something profound, man. She was just sitting there. And she said, baby, it's not God, right? Because I had said, like, I don't know how with all these churches, it's all this craziness, right?
Yeah.
And she said, baby boy, it ain't God. It's those who represent God. That's the problem. It ain't God.
Yep.
I was like, oh. She's like, it's those that represent God in the city is the problem.
Yep.
You know, and you know, how do families navigate that? You know, finding a church that is not for show, but it's for the development, you know, of your spirituality, your faith, and your family.
Yeah. What they're using to identify a good church is also messed up, because they want to be entertained. They want the lit church. They want the church to, you know, with the smoke machines and, you know, the pastor rubbing, you know, spit in his brother's eyes and stuff like that. No shade, no shade. But that's what they're looking for. They're looking to be entertained. And I think people have to start. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. This is just how I've been feeling. I've been feeling more and more the desire to go a little bit more orthodox in my walk with God, right? Where it's less about how I'm feeling in a specific environment, and more about how I can honor God in whatever environment that I'm in. Just a little bit more orthodox, because I think we're choosing where we go to church based on how we feel and how well they sort of entertain us. And let's call it a buck, right? When we go to church, we're really sitting in a concert style atmosphere that doesn't really foster much closeness or togetherness or community. We go there hoping that the music is lit, hoping that the pastor gives us a really dope TED talk that motivates us for that week, that will hold us over until the following week, instead of just you know what, I want to find a boring church that's going to actually be real, like away from that, like away from all this stuff.
Right.
Like, I want to find a boring church. I want to find a church where I'm seen, I'm held accountable, right? I'm encouraged. You know, if I'm doing wrong, if I'm not doing right by my family, that men will put me aside and say, listen, we see that this is happening. All right, we're here to support you. We don't have that anymore. Right. We have pastors who want to be more influencers than they do want to be shepherds and pastors of people.
Or politicians.
Yeah. Politicians. I knew a pastor one time, a very influential pastor, right? But very humble. And he was asked about if he would consider running for mayor of the city, right? And he said, I don't know why I would do that. It'll be a demotion. Like, we don't have pastors that think that way anymore. Like pastoring people and leading them to a divine relationship with God is no longer like the top of somebody's priority. It's like, this is a stepping stone to get me to a place.
Exactly.
And I think we're missing that. So if we can get people coming in, you know, and then if I'm honest with you, and let's talk about men, men are less likely to attend churches because of how it's been portrayed in the media, rightfully so. And they've gone to churches and had very bad experiences. Men want to know, what do I need to do in order for me to be right with God? They're not concerned about feeling. Like, they're not going to church singing R&B songs with spiritual lingo to God.
Exactly.
You know, like
exactly. And there's a feeling, you know, and I felt it in some churches that you're teaching the woman to follow the pastor to Jesus.
Yes. Yeah.
And not seeing the reflection of Jesus in her husband or a man.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, and that's crazy, you know, because then the man gets lost in the church, you know, because the pastors should be teaching in a way that the man can grab how he could be a reflection of Jesus, and the woman can grab how she could pick a man that's a reflection of Jesus, not following the pastor to Jesus, right? Because the man's supposed to be the head of the home.
Yeah.
They turn around and make the pastor the head of the home.
Yeah.
And then that's when the husband's like, yo, I ain't going no more. This, you know what I'm saying? I'm not, you go, you take the kids. I'm not dealing with this nonsense.
Yeah. Nope.
You know?
Nope. Yeah.
You know, and I saw that one time. Me and my wife was at the church and they had Jamal Bryant, right? Now I'm sitting there, man, right?
Yeah.
This is the old Jamal Bryant. This new dude, I don't even know, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know this new guy. This new politician, right? I don't even know. This is the old Jamal Bryant.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there in the church, brother, and he letting them have it, and all the women, they just, I'm watching this. I'm like, oh my God, I'm watching my wife. I'm like, girl, what did you do? You know, she just up, right? She just up, and they went to the end talking about $100 for passage of who got 100. Man, and she grabbed her wallet, pulled out that checkbook.
Did you pull it back?
I was like, yo,
you don't put that checkbook away.
I had to laugh. I had to laugh at myself, but I also saw the power, right? The power of that, and the response of the women. Yeah. The men was just still like chilling, like they you know, it's like the women felt like he was preaching to the women. The men was just okay, yeah, that sound good, but the response and I think, you know, that's where we're at now, and probably, you know, I mean, if he wasn't a guest speaker, you know, pastor, you know, for that night, if that was a every Sunday sermon, the men would probably stop coming. Yeah. You know, because they wasn't getting taught. Yeah. You know, and I think that's the very thing that the church, you know, some churches are good, some churches give a balance. You know, I'm not knocking all churches. Yeah. You know, 100%. and some churches it's just one-sided, bro. Yeah. You know, and that's why you don't see no men in there. Yeah. You know, and now's the time that we need men in churches. Yeah. It's dangerous outside. It is. You know, it's dangerous outside. And even by that whole scuffle with Don Lemon, you know, that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. That wouldn't even happen in the church I would belong to, because somebody would have got Jesus. Somebody would have
Jazzy Jeff would be out now. A whole bunch of
they wouldn't have came in that church no more. You know, but that's the disrespect of the church too. Yeah. You know, and it's our people, right? Yeah. You know, Black sister ahead of that, regardless of color, right? Let's pull the color out. You ran up in a house of worship. Yeah. People were praying and trying to get close to God. Yeah. To talk about immigration. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Yep. And then they pervert the scriptures, talking about, well, Jesus turned tables. That's not what Jesus turned tables for. And he didn't even turn it in the sanctuary. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Well, if we look at it within context, right? People on the outside, money changers were coming into the temple to disrupt worship. Right. These people came in with an agenda outside. Right. To come into a temple or a place of worship to disrupt it. And Jesus would have flipped the tables on them.
Exactly.
Look at it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly. Yeah. You know, and we're and that's when I saw that when people started defending it, you know, I'm like, you know, we're in a dangerous territory.
Well, now. but that wouldn't fly. Like, so let's say it was to happen in any other type of house of worship, right? Just speaking in reality, right? We know that they would have never done that if it was a mosque.
Oh no!
Right? They wouldn't do that if it was a temple, because they don't want to come off as anti-Semitic.
Right. Exactly.
But they'll do that, you know, in a Christian church,
Right.
because there's no respect anymore for that
Right.
specific, you know, I can't even say denomination, just the Christian faith in general.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and there was a time where, you know, like that's sovereign. It was a safe space for everybody.
Right.
But you're right. Like churches have become essentially soft. In fact, you know what it was? It's like, I remember I used this analogy a couple of years ago. We're able to walk around our house in the complete dark and not stub
Right.
our toe on
Right.
furniture, right?
Mhm.
And churches have become that ineffective in a lot of their communities.
Wow.
You know, people are walking around in communities and their toes aren't getting stubbed because they know exactly how to maneuver around it, because the church hasn't been making much impact in the community.
Right.
And it's a sad fact, right? It's a sad fact. And if we look at the black community we don't have a shortage of churches.
No.
And but we don't have a shortage, but we also don't have a shortage of pastors who are, you know, doing well off of the back of
Right.
the churches. So and I think that's a conversation that people don't really want to have.
No.
Like, why, you know, a pastor, if he has other businesses, I have nothing to say. He's an author, he's writing books, he got, you know, other side income. But if his sole job is the pastor of a church and he's in a community that is struggling, that is economically disadvantaged, but he's able to drive in a really nice car, live in a really nice house outside of the community, and, you know, there really is no incentive for that pastor to really encourage the community to sort of, you know, be built up, because he's getting everything he needs to get. And I think, as we was talking about earlier, how people should choose churches, they really got to choose churches where they have leadership that is concerned about elevating all of the families in the community and in the church. There shouldn't be any community with a solid church in it that is struggling.
Right.
It really shouldn't.
Right.
And you know, it really shouldn't, man. And I think that's where churches have come a long way. If we read the book of Acts and see how churches were right at the inception of the church, and how they grew in numbers, and how they was building strong communities in the midst of persecution. Right. We become fat. We become fat and lazy.
Exactly.
So now if the pastor is getting his money from 64% of the single mothers living in single of the families that have single mother homes, right? He's good. There's no incentive for him to say, you really need to get married. There's no incentive, because single mom is giving him the money, right?
Right.
He's not concerned about the men coming to church, because them getting married might disrupt that.
Exactly.
Them getting married might disrupt that.
Exactly.
We need to find churches that are concerned about family.
Yes.
And growing family, and supporting family, and encouraging family, and rebuking husbands if they're stepping out of their marriages, right?
Exactly.
Rebuking wives for disrespecting their husbands. You know, like, we need that now. We need that now more than ever, because like, you know, we've talked offline, like, and just like you, I fear this very same thing. What is the black family going to look like in 20 years?
Exactly.
What are we going to look like? Because we're already at the low end of society, right? That divide's going to become wider and wider and wider, and we're going to still be talking about how much we're struggling, instead of trying to fix the reasons why we're struggling in the first place. We're in America, right? We're in a Western civilization, and you know, we want to have, you know, we want wealth, we want this, we want that. You know what? You know how that comes? Building family.
Exactly.
Building legacy. You know,
Exactly.
Like, it's like encouraging your kids to do well, right? Having mom and dad there to encourage the kids to do well, because you do that, right? You do that. Let's say you have 3 kids. You have 3 kids, and let's say dad, dad. Well, it's today, so dad and mom are working, right? Kids are a little bit older, so mom and dad are working. Let's say that they gross $175,000-$200,000 a year, right? And they're encouraging their kids to do well also, right?
Right.
So they're grossing $200,000 a year. Their kids do well. They have a good source of reference. They get decent jobs. Now that family together, right?
Right.
Are now grossing $800,000 a year.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
All right. Then they get married. Right. And their spouses, add to that. Well, it's generational.
It's generational. Yeah,
Generational.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
And we're not taught in the Black family to at least in a lot of Black communities, at least from and this could be anecdotal, I don't see that being pushed enough. We talk about the Black dollar not circulating, but it is circulating. Right. The Black man's junk.
Exactly.
and it's producing children, but not producing wealth.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
and the scripture tells us two are better than one. Whether you're making, each person's making 50,000, you make 100,000, or it's two. Like it's just what I don't understand. It's just mathematics. Even if you just take out all the nuances in the relationship, just mathematics, 2 are better than 1. You work together. And you grow together, and your finances will grow together. I see young ladies now that have good jobs, but if you live in New York, you're still having a hard time buying a home.
Facts, yeah.
Even with your degrees,
yeah.
Right? Your young ladies are having a hard time finding a home, but they don't see. They just this independent thing that is with our women, right? And I told somebody, I said, when after Kamala lost and you saw Joy Reid was going after white women, like white women betrayed Black women because they voted for Trump. My response was white women didn't want to be boss chicks.
Yeah.
They wanted to be housewives. And Trump, whether we like it or not, people that's watching, he promoted the family structure.
Yeah.
Right? And white women looked at what Kamala was promoting, right? LGBTQ, men's going in the girls' bathrooms. Men's playing in women's sports, right? And white women said, no, he's talking about jobs.
Yeah.
He's talking about factories.
Yeah.
I got a young white son in my basement that has a master's degree, and he's still in my basement. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I want him out.
Yeah.
And I want him to get a job that he could get a wife.
Yeah.
And have a family. Our structure is our child can stay in the basement forever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the family dynamics and how it was, this election was around. Yeah, white women went with Trump. They didn't want to be boss chicks. They did not want to be boss chicks. They want to have a caravan with the kids in the back.
Yep.
And take them off. But black women now see that as weakness.
Yeah. And that's an unfortunate thing, man, because that idea of weakness that they believe, right, is making the family structure weak.
Right.
And they don't realize that. And they don't realize that. Like we're the ones that are struggling from that. Kudos that it does definitely show the resilience of Black women.
Right.
The grit, the grind, 100%. And then they'll use Proverbs 31 as a source of reference to justify that.
And that's a false judge, because the Proverbs 31 woman was a strong woman. She wasn't what they try to pertain it to be.
Yeah, and the motive for her doing that, though, was for the family.
Exactly.
Like, that was the motive, to benefit the family.
But she supported the husband.
Yeah. Yes.
She was a supporter of the husband.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So, and again, like, women are bragging on the degrees, all that stuff, right? And get upset when they can't find a man at that caliber. Should a man be a provider? 100%, right?
Absolutely.
Provisions, but provisions isn't only
money.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And society tells women today that that's what provision looks like.
Right.
And again, the Bible looks at marriage as something that couples work on together, that everything is shared. Like, this whole argument of 50-50 is ridiculous. There is no 50-50. Everything should be 100%. No. We just put it all together because this is our income, our house, our kid, our this, our that. It's not yours and yours. I think the enemy really did a good job in making us believe that that's how it should be. This is yours, this is mine, and that's it. That's not how marriage flourishes.
No,
it's not.
No, it's not, and that's how it ultimately dies sometime.
Yeah.
Or if there's no center, it could be 50-50, it could be 90-10, it could be 70-30, it could be, but as long as each couple is putting in 100 of their soul and their heart into it, you know what I'm saying? Because, hey, if the woman makes more money than the man, so what?
Yeah.
If the man makes more money than the woman, God bless him.
Yeah.
Right? Because your nature, if you're taught, even if you make less money, your nature is to lead and take care of your wife.
Yeah.
Right? You're still going to do it.
Yeah. I'm going to say something controversial. And sorry to my sisters in advance. A man makes more money and he's like, yeah, I'm going to go provide for my family. A woman makes more money and she's like, yeah, I don't need no man.
Exactly.
So, and ladies, if you guys are watching in the comments, you can leave your comments. Let me know what you guys think about that. It's controversial, but let's be honest. I'm not saying that to be mean. All right. And I'm not even saying that like as a blank for everybody, but for the most part, that's what we see.
Right. And, right. No, you're absolutely right. And that's the breakdown in family.
Yes.
But we all know that when you at war, right. They used to say, the winner gets the booty.
Yeah.
Yep. And the winner of the war gets the spoils of the woman.
The war. Yeah.
Right. The Black community has not yet to understand that we are at war. And the fact that they have commandeered our women, they are winning in the war of the mind.
Yeah.
And I don't know how Black men can rebound because it's systematic.
Yeah.
It's not just Black women, right? It's the media, it's entertainment, right? It's political.
Yeah.
Right? It's political. We've seen this in the Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
That is also political.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Go ahead, bro.
If you hold that, stay right where you are. I'm going to put something in between that too.
Oh, okay.
Just and just to show that it could be seen as strategic. They removed factory jobs, right? Introduced, all kinds of drugs in communities affecting Black men, where they got arrested for using and selling.
Right.
Gave Black women scholarships to go to college, while arresting the men right? And 20 years later, we're in a situation now where women believe, a lot of women, not all, that they are above the men that
Right.
were struggling all these years. It's strategic, just to add to your
Yeah, oh,
point.
absolutely. And Obama was one of the main culprits because
Ouch.
he pushed college.
Yeah.
In 4 years, he pushed college, didn't push trade.
Yeah.
Where black men, mostly because we work with our hands.
Yeah.
As it was one of the he wrote one of the books, I can't think, because I saw a video, and he was showing how the work dynamics changed. The more the work dynamics, it went from the factory job.
He's light
No,
skinned?
he's dark. No, he's dark skinned. Kawanzi Kunjufu.
Okay.
He is a video of him. He's standing in front of a whiteboard, and he's showing how the industries changed. And as the industries changed, the black man was less valued. You had the factory jobs.
Yeah.
Then it went into the computer age.
Yeah.
Right. Then it went into Then it went into the corporate settings.
Yeah.
And these settings, right. And now, hell, we in the AI setting, right?
Yeah.
we're going into a whole new work social era
100%.
that black men will be put out more and more and more.
Yeah.
Right. See, and that now with the AI stuff, black men and women getting put out.
Yeah.
Right. It just ain't. But all those ages, all those different changes, black women came up.
Yeah.
The less and less factory jobs, the less jobs working with our hands.
Yeah.
Right. Black men were beginning to get put out more because it was less of those type of desk jobs for not just black men, but white men. So, if it was less jobs for men, period, we're going to be at the bottom of getting the jobs. Right. And he was showing that dynamic. And here we are today. But now we're in the AI age where they're putting away black men and black women.
Yeah, they're coming for everybody. They're coming for everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's going to get worse.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's going to get worse. Man, I got them all, but I used Claude the other day. Mm-hmm. And Claude put out something for me. I was like, Jesus Christ. Marketers, like marketers are going to lose their job.
Yeah.
Because you don't need somebody to put together a whole business plan anymore.
Nope.
Right? You don't need you damn near don't even need lawyers now.
Yeah.
To do a brief.
Yeah.
So what do black people do? I did a video when Tyler Perry sold his last half of BET Plus.
Yeah.
Now there's nothing black owned.
Yep.
So we have 45 million people in the United States. We're expected to spend over $2 trillion.
Yep.
In just being consumers.
And we don't own it.
And we don't have no black major media company.
Yeah.
Think about that. Right? We're only 2% of businesses in the United States. Jewish people are 2%, but they're like 13, 14%.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And I tell people, I said, well, if we would raise our businesses to 10%, let's say 8%, we will change unemployment in the black community overnight.
Yeah.
Right. But we're not thinking on that level, brother. The same way we're not thinking and seeing the family structure as something that could give us a financial push.
Yeah. Well, and that's what it is. Like when we see people doing well in our community, we demonize them. They got a business, and we go into the business and we expect a hookup, and we say, no, we can't afford to give you a hookup. You can't just support the business, right? We see a strong husband and wife walking their kids to school, and we say, "Look at that! That's that white supremacist." Like, and that's how we think. That's how we think, right? So if we see a solid husband and wife together with their kids, in a white picket fence, like that's white supremacy. No, it's not. It's America. It's,
No.
How many of us came to this country hoping for the walk on the streets of gold and the American dream of a white picket fence and a yard and 2.5 kids with a dog? Guys, that's not. That's just what people as a whole wanted in America. And when we look at the families, we think that's white supremacist, or they want to be white. No, it's not. A restaurant owner doesn't want people twerking on their tables. It's no, it's not white supremacy. It's a standard of.
You saw that video when he was like, "Yo, like, what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing on my chairs, man?"
Yes.
And they wanted to boycott his business.
Yeah, for having a standard, guys.
Exactly.
And this is it at its core. We don't want a standard for ourselves. And as long as we live as a people rejecting standards, we're never going to come up. There will never be a bar to reach. There's no standard. We have to set a standard so that we can meet that standard. We remove all the standards, we're never going to come up.
Exactly, brother. Yeah. Exactly. I don't want to keep you, man. Let me. We talked through most of the questions, man.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, man. We just talked to his listen.
Yeah.
Here's one.
Got you.
Do you think we replace accountability with trauma? Meaning we explain behavior instead of correcting it in the Black community.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. And you know what? And I have a background in mental health. I have a degree in marriage and family counseling, a master's degree in marriage and family counseling. So I say this with respect to the craft, the work, the profession about counseling. But people use these counseling terminology, and it's being used so much that it's diminishing the effectiveness of what it is in the first place, right? We experience trauma, but the trauma, we don't see bad behavior and say, oh man, they've gone through trauma. Okay, it doesn't stop there. they probably had some traumatic experiences, but that doesn't negate the fact that there has to be some accountability for the actions or some help so that the behavior changes. We're excusing the behavior and putting therapeutic terminology behind it, just so that we don't have to deal with the work that comes in to change that behavior.
Right.
In our community, we talked about the twerking, right? What is it about our community that accepts that kind of behavior? What is it about our community that accepts that it's okay for just our brothers to be on the street corners, not doing anything with their lives, right? Oh well, they didn't grow up without a father. They're experiencing trauma. All right, yeah. A lot of people have
exactly.
We don't just stop, right? So, and I think you're right. We've gone through things as a people. We've gone through things as a community. We've gone through things that was that was brought apart by people on the outside to keep us down. Right. So and we're mad at everybody else, right, for doing these things to us, and they get mad at us for trying to get ourselves out of it.
Exactly.
So when it comes to all that, yes, we have trauma, we have generational trauma, we have it.
Right.
Let that motivate us to do better.
Right.
And here's proof that we could do better. Right. I'm at that window of time when my neighbors were still allowed to spank me when I did wrong. Right?
Right.
But people in my generation, right, don't want anybody else doing that because we didn't like it being done to us.
Right.
So we know how to make changes.
Right. Exactly.
We know how to make changes, right?
Exactly.
We know how to do it, right?
Exactly.
My neighbor went off on me. It was traumatic. Nobody's touching my kids. We know how to make those changes, right?
Right. Exactly.
We experienced people groups trying to keep us down. You know what? We're not having it. We're gonna get out of this. So we have the ability to do it.
Exactly.
We have the ability to do it. Right. We have the ability to look at traumatic experiences, see our traumatic experiences, and make those changes. We got to stop excusing our behavior just because we've had traumatic experiences. If counseling is the goal, then go to counseling. But what we really need is people to come together and say, this is not acceptable. Let's support each other. The reason why people go to counseling, and I say this with respect, okay? People go to counseling, right, because they lack good people to give sound advice in their life.
Exactly.
That's what it is. And we live in a world where everybody is so isolated today and so private that and living in this facade of everybody believing that they're doing better than they are, that they will go rather pay $175, $200 to somebody they don't know to tell their problems to, who are now incentivized to keep you unwell so that money keeps coming to them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and I'm not against counseling. I got a degree in it, but it is what it is, right? We go through traumatic experiences.
It is. Right.
We don't want to, galvanize and get people together to encourage each other to do better. So we don't want people in our business. So we just go pay somebody we don't know, a stranger, to make it feel like we're doing some work. And I said a lot there, but
no, that's good, brother. Man, we've been on for an hour. I'm not going to keep it, man. It went by real quick. It went by real quick, man. Yeah. But let people know where they could find you and contact you, man. If they want to watch a show, if they want to get in touch with you, man, let people know where you at.
Well, you can. I have a podcast called Harrison Family Values, the podcast. You can find me on YouTube. We're on Spotify. Go to TikTok. You can go to Harrison Family Values on TikTok. You can search Harrison Family Values on Instagram as well. But the quick way on Instagram is going to @Andre_D_Harrison. And we on my YouTube channel, my podcast, we talk about faith, family, fatherhood, manhood, and marriage. I also have a book, From a Fatherless Father to a Son, available on Amazon, so you can go there and get the book. And man, my hope in life is to do God's will, to be of service to God and people, my family, and to really encourage family by encouraging men to be leaders in every area of their life in a way that would honor God. I appreciate you allowing me to come on this platform.
Man. Thank you for coming, man. It's overdue. It's overdue, man. I was just like, man, let me reach out to Cuzzo, man, and so we can have this conversation, man. Because I'm trying to educate Black folks. I'm trying to have these conversations, whether it's politically or spiritually, and thank my pastor. He told me, he said, brother, your ministry is to take down strongholds. He said, I see where you're going. Yeah. So I pray on it, and I keep doing what God has blessed me to do, man. I'm retired now, so I ain't got to say anything. Right. First of all, a lot of people like, bro, you can't, a job. I ain't got no job, right?
You can say whatever you want. my pitch is coming, and I'm gonna say whatever I want.
Exactly. So, and it's like, my friend said, yo, bro, if y'all thought Damon was bad now, what he was saying when he was working, now he's retired. But I my goal is to keep it God centered. I need that as my compass as I talk about politics, as I talk about community. You know what I'm saying? I want to keep it there because I know I can't go wrong if I'm on that standard. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You know, so I, and I said, man, let me bring Brother Andre on, man, so we can have this conversation because it's needed. Yeah. And man, I thank you, brother. I thank you, man. I thank you for coming on.
Yeah, and if I can give some encouragement to those who are watching, keep the conversation going. Don't let the conversation stop here. In the comment section, engage one another in conversation about this because, and let us know what you guys think about the Black family. Like, are you agreeing with what we've been saying? Because I think having these conversations will help us develop the mindset to move forward from where we are today. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, brother. And God bless, man. And have a blacktastic evening and enjoy, man. I'll be talking to you.
All right.
And that's my brother, Andre Hansen. And I want to thank everybody that has joined the show. As brother said, please leave comments, like, share. You could go to blackwestchester.com, Black Westchester Magazine, and check out the latest articles, the news with the Black point of view. And as always, as I say, stay safe, stay blessed, and stay blacktastic. Peace out.
Appreciate you taking the time to engage with real conversations, real issues, and real perspectives that matter to Black America. Stay connected, stay informed, and as always, we'll see you next time at the Publisher's Desk. It's going to be blacktastic. If you're serious about political clarity and independent thinking, this is for you. The Political Thought Bundle includes 3 full books, all personally singling. Democrats and Republicans, The Ultimate Gangbangers, breaks down how the two-party system operates like a legalized street war for power. Emotional Politics, Logical Failure exposes how emotion has replaced strategy in Black political engagement. Tolerance is for Cowards lays out a blueprint for extended policing and community-led public safety rooted in outcomes rather than slogans. 3 signed books. 1 bundle, $60. That's a $75 value, and you're getting signed copies included. This isn't left versus right. It's results versus rhetoric. Go to twosteppublishing.com and secure your signed Political Thought Bundle today. It's going to be blacktastic. For more than a century, Black America built its own economy under segregation, under discrimination, and under conditions most people today cannot imagine. We built businesses. We built banks. We bought land and property. In The Forgotten Blueprint, Damon K. Jones reveals how Black communities created thriving economic systems from 1800 to 1965 and why that blueprint still matters today. This book challenges the idea that our future depends on politics alone and shows how ownership, family, and enterprise once powered Black prosperity. The blueprint is not lost. We just stopped using it. The Forgotten Blueprint, how Black America built its own economy from 1800 to 1965. On sale now at Two-Step Publishing and Amazon. Black Westchester Magazine has been giving our community a voice, reporting the stories others ignore, holding power accountable, and making sure the truth about our communities is told by us. But independent Black media only survives when the community supports it. If you believe in real journalism, community accountability, and keeping Black voices strong in local news, we need your help. Your donation helps us continue covering the stories that matter: politics, education, justice, and economic empowerment right here in Westchester. Support Black media, support Black truth, support Black Westchester Magazine. Donate today and help keep Black media alive. Because Black-owned independent media is blacktastic. Black Westchester Magazine presents People Before Politics, the Sunday Rundown, every Sunday at 6 p.m. on YouTube. Join Damon K. Jones, AJ Woodson, and Larnez Kinsey as they break down the biggest stories in politics, culture, and community from a Black point of view. No spin, no party loyalty, just logic, accountability, and outcomes. If it impacts Black America, we're talking about it. Tap in, subscribe, set your reminder. This Sunday at 6 p.m. is going to be blacktastic.
This is the Publisher's Desk with Damon K. Jones, brought to you by Black Westchester Magazine, where life, culture, community, and faith meet truth, power, and purpose.